Okay, so I have one row that's stuffed, and then I have my second row that I haven't stuffed yet. And I mean, it was difficult enough to sew one row that's stuffed. So I know that if I stuff this row like this and then try to join them together, it will probably be super challenging, if not impossible. So I think my best approach is to stuff one row and then take the second unstuffed row and then sew them together. Go ahead and sew that together, and then once it's sewed together, then I can stuff this row and close it up. And then I'll do that with the next rows after that. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll come back and show what that looks like. All right, so here we go. We're gonna try to sew these together. And I mean, already you can see, oh, well, now you can't see. There we go. So you can see one side is not stuffed and the other side is stuffed. And it's already like kind of a challenge. So, so here we go. And of course, you're just gonna sew right next to the previous line, just to cover up those original stitches there. Alright, so I'm back. I stitched the puffed side with the unpuffed side, and yes, it was difficult. My stitching is not the best. I did have to go back in some areas and make sure that it was all stitched together because it's really poofy. So I would really recommend, like, if this is your first time doing a puff quilt, to only stuff one side at a time and do not overstuff. So that is my advice for that. So got this section together. So now I think what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and stuff this this row and close it off. And now I'm thinking about how I'm going to piece this section to the next section. So probably what I would have to do is, because I think the best thing to do is to do like 2 rows at a time together. So if that's the case, then the next row that will connect here to this, I will not stuff, but I will stuff the next row that goes along with the row that's gonna go here. So then that way, when I sew all 4 together, it'll be an unstuffed row. It'll be an unstuffed row with a stuffed row. if that makes sense. Uh, yeah, something like that. So when you sew your rows together, it's gonna have to be a stuffed row and an unstuffed row. So however you figure out how to do that, I think will be the best way to have a successful puff quilt. So yeah. Okay, so I think the original game plan that I had is probably a no-go. So I think before, um, I think I was gonna puff these and then attach this and then try to attach this, but I forgot I have to fill this row. So I think the best game plan is to just go row by row. So I'm gonna go ahead and just attach this non-stuff one to the row before it, then stuff it, and I've already stuffed this, so it's gonna be really hard putting them together, but I am going to make it work. And after I get these together, I'm just going to attach one row at a time that's unstuffed and then stuff it before I connect it to the other one. I think that is how it has to go. I think that would be the best way, because trying to put two puffs together is going to be very difficult, but I think it's doable. It's just going to be more difficult than it has to be. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So that is something that you can avoid doing next time. And I don't know if I mentioned this, is that when I placed all of my squares out for the pattern, I made sure that the opening was facing down. And so I think that, you know, that will have a play in how you sew your rows together. So if you wanted to do where, you know, if you wanted to just do 2 rows at a time and then attach 2 rows together, I think you would have to have a plan to where the openings maybe face an opposite direction to make that work out. But I didn't do that, so I'm just gonna have to go row by row. So yeah. All right, so I've filled these here, and now I am going to attempt to join this one together. So now both of these are filled, and I think it's going to be terribly difficult. I don't know. So I'm gonna try see if we can get these together, because even, you know, looking there, you can see how puffy it is, but we are going to still try it. So I would say use like these like Wonder clips. They help. I think the pins will be a little more secure, but I don't know, I like these clips better. So, and it's just gonna take a lot of just manipulation of the 2 pieces, but I think I can make it work. But I definitely know that this isn't how I would want to piece together my entire quilt, because it's too much. It's definitely too much, because I mean, it's already hard enough to get the seams to match up using these clips. So I know it's going to be difficult sewing it together. And And one thing too that I would have to deal with moving forward is the weight of the quilt too, because of course, as I stuff it, it's gonna get heavier. Any quilt that you put together, it gets heavy as you put the pieces together. But since I'm adding polyfill to it, it's just adding on to the weight. So that's something that I will have to deal with because of the way that I'm sewing it together. So that's why I say, when you lay out your pattern, lay it. I guess you just got to do a little more like think work to it. But I think what it is that place the opening of your pouch, like one has to be opened down, and then on the next row maybe it needs to be opened up. So then that way you can sew like 2 rows together at a time, and then start connecting those 2 rows to another set of 2 rows, etc. If that makes sense, like kind of piece it together in pieces to avoid the quilt being too big and heavy, just moving forward. So I don't know if I explained that to where it makes sense, but yeah, hopefully that helps. And I will come back to show you how I stitched this together. Okay, so here I go, attempting to sew this together. It's just a lot of manipulation with it, and just like pushing it down, and already I am messing up a little bit, so I may have to, it's yeah, so it's definitely going to be some parts where I will have to go back and stitch over, because I'm not even sure if you're able to see any of this, if my hands are in the way or not. But I mean, there's a hole that's right there. So I will have to go back and stitch over. I may even have to hand stitch it if I'm unable to get it through the machine. So definitely don't overfill your pouches, and don't try to attempt to sew two stuffed pouches together, because this is difficult. So yeah. Whew, is all I can say. This was not the easiest thing to get these together. So, I don't know if you can see my stitching, but it's like all over the place. But when you look at the front, it looks okay. And I think there may be a few spots where like there are holes like right here. So I would have to, can you see that? They're like holes. They're like little gaps. So I have to go back and fix those. And I think probably the best thing to do is to hand stitch them, because I mean they're, yeah, you can see my nail coming through there. That was the first one I told you about. So yeah, so that is that's the problem that you'll run into if you stuff both sides and then try to stitch it together, of course. So stuff one, stitch stuffed, unstuffed together, and just go that way. That's the best way to do it.